Hi, I'm Melissa, and I'll be teaching the React.js workshop for Hack on the Hill 12. And as a disclaimer, I'm a little bit sick today, so my voice might be a little gone throughout the presentation. And also, I will not be going in depth about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript because we already have another workshop that covers those. So I'll be focusing mainly on React today. So let's get right into it. And here's the link to the slides if you want to follow along the presentation. So today we'll be covering an introduction to React, how to set up for React, and components, props, and state in React. So let's get into the introduction. So what is React.js? It is a free and open source JavaScript library that aims to make user interfaces, also called UI, more seamless and efficient. It is mainly used for front-end development, and Facebook, Instagram, and Netflix are some of the websites that use React for front. So why React? It reacts to state changes, which makes it very dynamic. It is efficient as it updates individual components instead of the whole page. And it is very popular, as in the graphic shown on the right, it is a close second to Node.js as the most used web development framework. And it is also an in-demand skill for jobs. So in React.js, which stands for JavaScript XML, it is a syntax extension for JavaScript that lets you write HTML-like markup inside of a JavaScript file. It is a combination of JavaScript and HTML, so it makes it easier to write and add HTML in React. So here's an example of code with JSX and without JSX. And on the top, you see that to make my element, you have to use react.createElement to make an H1 element, and that's without JSX. And then with JSX, you could just write it as you would in an HTML file. So it makes it more readable and efficient. And for today's demo, we will be making a cafe list with some of my favorite cafes. And in these, it will have the name of the cafe, the location of the cafe, and also a picture. And then we will have a like counter, which you could like by clicking the button. So now we'll be getting into the setup for React. So these are some of the necessities that you will need for React. Make sure you have a text editor. I'll be using VS Code for this demo. Also make sure you have a web browser such as Chrome. I'll be using Chrome. And then make sure you have a node.js downloaded, which is this website right here. You could download it right here for Mac. And then this allows for the development server to see the effect of our code in real time. So let's get into the setup. I'll go over the setup first, the steps to setup, and then I'll do it in the demo. So in the terminal, first you install using npm. So you could write npm create v at latest in the terminal, and then enter y, and then enter your project name. You can name this whatever you like. And then you select the framework and variant. For this demo, we'll be using React and JavaScript. And then you would run these three commands: cd your project name, npm install, and then npm rundown. And then you would click on the link that shows up, and then your browser should look like that. And then your VS Code should have all of these files. Okay, so let's get into the demo. Right now, I have VS Code open. You could go in any folder you would like. And then in our terminal, we would type npm create v at latest. And then it would ask for the project name, which I'll just name this one React project. Okay. And then let me scroll up. It prompts you to select a framework, which we're using React right now. So I'll use the arrow buttons to go down to React and then click enter. And then we'll be going to JavaScript. Okay, perfect. And then now it tells you the 3 lines of code that we need to run. So we're going to do cd React project. And now we're in the React project folder. And then now we're going to npm install. And this step might take a while because it has to install all the packages and everything. So let's just wait for this. And while this is going on, let me show you how you would download Node.js. So if you click on the link that was in my what's it called? In my slideshow, there's a Mac OS installer here, and I think there is a Windows one. I think I'm not sure. Yeah, you gotta click on Windows and then you just install, and then you can just follow the install directions on your computer. Okay, let's see. Okay, perfect. This has installed, and then now we're going to do npm run down. Okay, and just like in my slides, it gave us the links, which we will click, command click, and then now it shows this page. So let's like set this up a little bit to look like my demo. So, oh, actually right here, if we click on here, it will have all of these files right here. And if we click in the source, then these are all of the things we'll need. It gives us app.css, app.jsx, index.css, and main.jsx. In this demo, we won't be touching the index.css and the main.jsx. We'll be focusing on that. So in this, I'm going to actually delete this part, and then I'll write my own div, and I'm going to name this. And in React, we use class name instead of class, like you do in HTML. So we're going to class name, and then I'll just have an H1 in here, cafe list. And I'll delete all of these that we're not using at the moment. And then I'll import my already made CSS file into this. Um, I won't be going into depth on this because it is CSS, but if you want to see this, if you want to see this file or if you're interested in what I'm doing here, then you could look into the GitHub repository. I'm gonna save this and then I'm gonna save this. Oh, actually, I put the wrong CSS file in there. Give me one second. Okay, and now this shows up kind of like what it was like in the demo, just a cafe list. We don't have any components yet, so we'll get to that in the next slides. Okay, so now we're going to go into components. So what are components? Components are reusable bits of code that are kind of like the building blocks for the user interface, and they're a JavaScript function that returns HTML. And it is always good practice to make a components folder in your source folder to hold all of your components so they're in one place. So this is an example React component. Yeah, it is a JavaScript function, but it returns HTML code. So right here, this is a component for a cafe. It has the cafe title, which was community goods, the cafe location, and a cafe image. And in our demo, each of the three cafes are a component, and because they use very similar code and very similar style. And to use these components, we need to use import and export. So in the component file, we need to export the component at the end. So to do this, we'll do export default the component, and in this case, the component is the cafe. And in the file that is using the component, we need to import the component file, which we could do by saying import cafe from dos/components/cafe. And a note about imports is that the singular dot indicates that you want a file from the directory that you're currently in. So dot/component/cafe means that cafe is in the component that cafe is in the directory that you're currently in. And the two dots indicate that you want a file from outside of your current directory. So say I want an image, and image, you import image from /public/mymelody.png, which means that it is outside the current directory that you're in. So this is our component summary. A simple component will look something like this. First, you'll import the styling of the component or any other imports that you need, such as like icons. And then you will have a JavaScript function that returns what is in the component, which is an HTML file. And then, not HTML file, like just HTML. And then we will export the component by using export default, the component name. Okay, so let's go into our demo of making our first component. Okay, so as I was saying earlier, it is always good practice to make a components folder inside of your source file. So we'll make a new folder and then we'll name it components. And then in this components folder, we'll make our new component. So we're going to right click, new file, and then we're going to name this cafe.jsx. Okay, and I'll make a style sheet for this as well, cafe.css. And I'm gonna copy some code in here that will also be in the GitHub if you're interested. Okay, and in the actual components and in the actual cafe.jsx, we will first need to import the style sheet. So we're gonna import /components /cafe.css. Oh, sorry, we don't need components because we're already in the components folder. So just /cafe.css. And then we will make the function for this. So function cafe. We're not passing in anything yet, so we'll just use the parentheses. And then we'll do this. And then we want to return, I'll write this first. Okay, and then we want to return some HTML. So I'm going to write a div and I'm going to name that cafe. Okay, and then right now we don't have anything yet. So I'll just name it, I'll just say like cafe to see if it shows up. And then, okay, so now we have the component made, but now we want to export it so it could be used in other files. So then we're going to export default cafe. Okay, perfect. And then now in our app.jsx, where we want to use the cafe, we want to also import it. So it's going to be import dot slash components dot cafe. Oh, sorry, we need import cafe from this. Okay, and now we could use, let's make a div for all the cafes. And then we can just add a cafe in here. And this is how you add a component. Okay, let's see if that shows up on our, yes, it does. It's not styled yet because we haven't, but this is one of our little cafe components. So let's actually start writing our cafe component now that it actually shows up on the screen. So we're going to, inside our cafe div, we're going to have an h2 that is the cafe name. And then we'll have the first one be community goods. Okay, and then we'll have a p tag with it being the cafe location. And then community goods is in Melrose. Okay. And then we'll have another, oh, sorry. Then we'll have an image. We don't need this cafe anymore. Have an image. We're gonna name this cafe image or cafe picture. Okay. And then, oh, we need the source for this. So let me copy over the source that I have. 1 second. Oops. Okay. And this is just a picture that I found from online. Okay. So this is our current cafe component. Okay, let me fix this a little bit. Okay, so I accidentally wrote class lowercase name instead of class uppercase name, so that's why the styling wasn't working. So make sure that it's camel case class name. So now that this is cafes, um our browser looks like this. So this is our cafe list, and then we have our community goods cafe component. So that is our first component, and then we could add like as many as we'd like. We'd add three of these, and they'll all be here. But there is only there. It's the same component. It only has one name because we hard coded all of this cafe.jsx. So we like made this name community goods. The location has to be in Melrose. So using props, we can make it so we could have multiple. So let's get into that with the next presentation, which is about props. So what are props? They are how we pass data from one component to another, and it's how we pass information to our component, much like how you'd pass parameters to a function. So this is an example of passing information to a component. So you can see we added the component, and then we made the name community goods, the location Melrose, and the picture, whatever picture you found online. So these are an example of props. So how would you use props? So first you pass information through the props, such as the image on the left. So you're passing the name, the location, the picture. And then in the component, we will use these props by using the curly brackets for using JavaScript. And then we'll write props.name, props.location, and then props.picture. And another thing, this is not really props, but it's what I'm using in my demo. I will be using array.map, which goes through each item in the array. And as you can see on the right, it's going through each item, and then it is putting it is using the name of each item into the props. So the name that is passed in through props is cafe.name, which is the current cafe that we're in. So if our current cafe is community goods, then it'll be passing through community goods and then location rows and then picture. But if the current cafe is memory look, it will be passing memory look, the location of Koreatown, and then the picture is the picture in memory look. So props summary. So in the file using the component, we will pass through information through props. So as you can see, the pink underline, the name, that is what we're passing through to the component. And in the component, we are using props.name to actually take that information and display it on the script. So the yellow one, or sorry, the pink underline corresponds to the pink underline on the right, and then the blue underline corresponds to the blue underline on the blue underline on the left corresponds to the blue underline on the right, and then the same for the purple. And then on the top of the cafe, or on the top of the function, we will pass in props, which is much like a parameter. So let's get into the demo of implementing props. Okay, so first let's make a array on our app.js, and we will make it called cards cafe, and then we will just make an array right here. So our first cafe, we want it to be, we'll name it community goods, because that's my favorite cafe. And then the location is Melrose. And then the image or the picture, I already have this. I'll copy this right. And okay, and that is our first cafe. And then I want to add another one. Its name is Memory Look. Location is Koreatown. And oh, not picture, picture, picture. Let me copy this picture right here. Okay. And then let me add my last cafe, which is called Ministry of Coffee. And its location is in Westwood. And then its picture is right here. Okay, so now I have my three cafes in my app.js file, and I want to pass this information through to my component so it could display on my screen. Because as you can see right now, my screen is still full of community goods. It's only community goods. So we want to pass this through. So we'll get rid of these three cafes. And instead, we are going to do the cafe.map. So we're going to use these curly brackets to signify that we're using JavaScript. So cafes.map. And then we're going to map, okay, we're going to map a, sorry, we're going to map a cafe. And then we're going to take a cafe and we're going to map that to, we are going to map it, we're going to return this actually. And then we're going to return a cafe. And then we want to put all of our props in there. So we are going to do name is equal to cafe.name. And again, we're using the curly brackets to signify that we're using JavaScript here. We want the location to be cafe.location. And then we want the picture to be cafe.picture. Okay. And now that we're doing this, it still isn't showing up because we haven't changed our component yet. Let's go into our component. And as you can see right here, community goods is kind of hard coded into our component. To change that, we could add props to the top of this. And then to change this, okay, so we're passing through name, location, and picture through our props. So we could do, instead we could do props.name, and then instead of location being logos, we could put the curly brackets and then props.location. And then this source, we could actually change it to props.picture. Okay, and then if we save that, you see how all of the images and the names and the locations are all different because we use props. And we didn't have to write new components for that. We only had to pass through props, and then we just had to make a list of all of our cafes. Okay, so that is how props is useful in React. And then now we will be going on into states. So what is a state? State is a built-in React object that contains data about a component, and it could change over time or by user interaction. And a component is re-rendered when the state changes, and it allows us to keep track of changes. So React hooks are a special function provided by the React library, and it allows developers to use React features in functional components. And useState is actually a React hook. So to use state, we need to import React and use state from React. So state variables are variables that can like be updated when the state changes. So this is a syntax for it. So we do const bracket likes, comma, set likes is equal to use state 0. So likes is actually the variable that gets updated, and then set likes is the function to update the variable. And then this initial value, it could be anything, but in our case, it will be zero because it starts off with 0 likes. So to update the state variables, we will use the function from this earlier declaration, and we will do set likes. You can set it to anything. I'm setting it to likes plus one because it's just like if you like it, then it changes to like to one more than it originally was. So set likes is the function to update the variable, and then inside the parentheses is what you want to update the variable to. So for state, we will make a state variable like this using that syntax const likes. Set likes is equal to use state zero. And this initial state, it could be anything. It could be like true, false, it could be zero, it could be a number. Yeah. And then we update the state variable when the state is changed. So like for example, it's like when a button is pressed, we'll do on click, and then you'll set likes to likes plus one or whatever you want it to be. So let's go into our demo about using state. So right here in our component, right now if we want to use state, we need to import state. So we're going to do this. We're going to do import React. Use state from React. Okay, so now we have this. And then in our function above the return statement, because we don't want to return the variable, we just want to make the variable. We're gonna make our likes state variable. So likes, set likes, and again, set likes is the function to change likes. We're gonna make that to use state, and we're gonna set the initial likes to zero. Okay, and then we are actually going to we're going to make some more p tags with the likes. And we'll write likes, and then we'll add, oh wait, not yet. Oh, we'll add our likes. So this is the variable that we're keeping for the amount of likes. And then we'll create a button. A button, and then we're gonna add an on click statement on this. So on click, this is how you write on click. We'll be doing this, and then we'll set likes to, we want it to be each click, we want it to add a like to the like counter. So we're gonna write likes plus one. Okay, and then we'll close off this tag, and then we'll have this button say like. Okay, and then let's see what it looks like on our website. Okay, now we can see that we have this like button and we have this like counter, and each of them, its initial state is zero. So if I click on this button, then this like will go up. So say I really like community goods, I'll like this like 10 times, and then it'll stay there. And then memory look, I do like memory look too, I'll click 7 times, and then um it'll stay there. And then if I click Ministry of Coffee like 3 times, then it'll be there. So this is like the state, when the state changes, like when I click this button, it is changing the likes, it is changing the likes variable because I am calling set likes and I'm changing it to likes plus one. So that's why it is changing the variable. So that is likes. And then we actually finished our website. And this is our final results. Thank you for watching this workshop. If you have any questions, you could ask any of the ACM officers. And also my demo will be in the GitHub at this link. And then the slides are also, they should be posted on the HOTH website. So just go to the HOTH website if you have any questions. And on the day of, feel free to ask any officer for any questions you have, or if you need any help. So thank you for watching and happy hacking.